Welcome back, Planeswalkers, to another episode of The Hive Mind. My name's Jon Dunning. This is the show where I traverse the multiverse in search of other prominent members in the Magic the Gathering community. And today I have a guest, I guess you could say, prominent. Well, we'll see. Well, Planeswalking in from the Tolarian Community College, Mr. Brian Lewis, better known as the Professor. Thank you, sir, for joining us.
It's an absolute pleasure to be here. Thank you for planeswalking into my humble abode. Please pull up a chair, have yourself a glass of whatever drink you favor, and let's sit and chat.
Absolutely. Well, yeah, and I know you are basically the busiest man on the planet as far as this card game goes.
I do have a tight schedule these days. It's a little crazy.
So thanks for carving out some time. But I'm not the only one here. I brought a special guest, as I tend to do on most of the shows I have on this. You know, I'm not a lush, but I'm not saying I'm not, I have a nice bottle of BSB. This is called Brown Sugar Bourbon. I'm drinking it out of the wrong kind of glass, but hey, it's my show. I'll do what I want. This was hooked up from Mr. Christian over at Northwest Beverage Distribution. Thank you so much, sir, for being my brother from another mother and letting me sample on this. And I heard, Professor, you are a bourbon connoisseur of sorts.
I am a fan of bourbons. I'm a fan of whiskeys of most varieties, but bourbon is one of my favorites of the brown liquids. I'm going to have to try that one that you're having tonight. I'm enjoying a little bit of High West tonight, American Prairie Bourbon. This is a favorite of mine. If your distributor offers anything from High West, they are fantastic. But my favorite out of all that they offer is probably the American Prairie Bourbon. It's a blend of straight bourbon whiskeys, and it is out of Park City, Utah. Fantastic stuff. Not a bad price point, about $35, maybe $40, depending on the store, which isn't bad.
Absolutely. Utah is really coming up. I just moved to the Pacific Northwest last year from Vegas. I spent 22 years in Las Vegas out in that desert. And yeah, Utah, as you know, is right next door. And they are actually coming up in the world of craft brew and liquor. I think it's Unida is a pretty good liquor there. So, sir, I would like to cheers you.
Salud.
Salud.
Oh, that's nice. Very nice.
Is that your first time with that one?
Well, no. This is an old standard of mine.
Excellent. Yeah, this is kind of same here. I have been sipping on this for a little bit now. It's up here in the Seattle area. It's brewed right here, and it's got nice little Mariners colors. If you're into baseball, which I'm not.
I'm not into any of the sports balls or sports foot team things. I don't. I the only thing I know about athletics is they tend to shove me in the locker.
Well, there'll be none of that here.
No.
But as we do, now that our drinks are out of the way, and our special guests, rather, as we do each and every episode of the Hive Mind, sir, I would like to know your illustrious Magic origin story.
Well, I came to Magic during Revised. It was in high school in ancient era known as the 1990s. And we had a little play group at my high school. And it turned into kind of my, like friend, not like lifelong, blood brother sort of thing, but like a little friend circle of young men and women about to graduate high school. And I was invited into it. And it was a fantastic experience, very formative for me. I had had a lot of social issues and social anxiety and didn't really have a lot of friends. And for me, the card game was very, very special because I was so into fantasy. I wrote fantasy. I wanted to be a writer. And I wrote a fantasy novel, and all I did was read fantasy novels, like anything Dragonlance by Margaret Weiss and Tracy Hickman, and the Deathgate saga by them as well, and the Terry Brooks Shannara series before it got bad, when it was really good. Just the first trilogy. It was really just a very, very humble ripoff of Tolkien before it really went off the rails. It was mwah, fantastic. And all that sort of stuff from those days, of course, Wheel of Time and, all the old standards of the 90s that were popular then. I just, it was escapism. And I had a life that, while certainly not as bad as many, many others, was still one I really wanted to escape. And so I escaped into the fantasy realm. And for Magic, it really was like I was in there casting those spells. I would sit around and turn through my 3-ring binder of cards like it was my spell book. And I remember I'd be like, there is the lightning bolt spell. I was a lonely, lonely teenager. There is the spell to summon the Shivan dragon. Oh, that will teach my enemies. This is what I did because I didn't have friends. And so, it was important in that way, but it was also my first experience really in my life and interacting with a lot of other people in a positive way and having certain levels of bonding and understanding. And then I quit when I went off to college. I was like, adults don't play Magic. I was leaving the people I played with behind. I had one friend who begged me not to sell my collection. He said, you're going to want it later in life as something just to look at and remember all the good times. And I said, nah, adults don't care about Magic. Sold those dual lands for $10 each. I had all of them.
No.
Yeah, I was like $10 each. They were perfect. I used card sleeves even back then. They didn't have what we currently think of as card sleeves. It was basically just penny sleeves, but every deck was penny sleeved, and I just did the soft little shuffle with it, and my cards were in near mint condition, all of them, all those duels, everything. I sold it all, went off to college, and I still thought of Magic. I really did all those years. It really had a hold on me. I thought of it often. And it wasn't until Original Innistrad block, right before that came out, that old friend pulled out his collection and said to me, we were living near each other at the time, and he said, hey, remember these? And I was like, oh, wow. and I looked at them and I was like, I got to go down and just get some and we'll play with them. Like, I'm just going to go down to the store and get a couple packs and we'll just get one more game like old days. And next thing I knew, I was all the way back in. He long ago put his back up in the closet, to look at it in another 40 years. But me, I was just dove into it, took back to it like a fish to water, was addicted and happy, making a lot of friends too, once again, down at the local game store. But yeah, that was my return to the game. Original Innistrad was my first pre-release, because we didn't do pre-releases back in Revised, or if they did, I certainly wasn't aware of them. I don't know if I missed out on the famous Homelands pre-release. I doubt there was one, but I think I'm glad I missed out on that. But so that's my origin story and where I am today here at Tolaria East now, where it took me this far.
Right, because we all know what happened to West, right?
That's what I told them. I said, why try and save the multiverse? Let's just talk about deck boxes. They were just like, we've got to stop them. I'm like, no, so, there's other planes. We'll move. It's infinite. Okay, so Phyrexia invades Dominaria and they turn it all into machines. Fine. There's 80 billion other planes of existence. Let's just go find another one.
Yeah.
It's like, all right. I mean, that sucks. I'm not saying it's a good thing, but geez, like,
let's get over it.
Let's go. They're not going to go invade all of them. They were just set on Dominaria. Let them have it. I mean, I'm not saying it's right. I'm saying let's just go get a game on another plane. We'll talk about deck boxes. So that was the premise. That was the founding, our schism from the Academy, was let's just talk about deck boxes.
Yeah, that's absolutely. And remember those penny sleeves. I don't know why that's what jumped out at me, but remember like a brand new pack of penny sleeves you put your deck in, and it was like it was spring loaded. Yeah. It was like you put it on the thing and then it blew up in your face.
Yeah.
It was impossible to shuffle and it got dirty. It was horrible.
Yes, but it was better than other people just playing with those revised duels right on the asphalt. Just turn it around,
Yeah. So I kind of ask a lot of people this question. Do you remember that first like big rare that you cracked?
I do. I'm pretty sure the first big rare that I cracked was Nightmare. And I really remember very vividly early on, after I had been given just some junky cards from a couple of the kids I was playing with and had seen them, that I remember very clearly I was opening up that pack of Revised and I was sliding through the cards, and then whoosh, there it was. And that art, just fiery horse, like it's running off the card at me. We've got Planeswalkers today where they're stepping out of the frame. Nothing compared to that '80s rock band cover Fire Horse that
Side
Melissa
of a
Benson
minivan,
drew.
right?
Yeah, that belongs on the side of a minivan, you know. And that I really remember. I was like, oh my God, I can't believe I got this card.
Well, black was just so overpowered, and definitely I mean, my Twitter handle is Orzhov Done, for crap's
Right.
sake. It's just like I could Dark Ritual, then Dark Ritual, and put out the Nightmare, but then have like a 2/2, you know?
No. I thought I had solved the game in high school. I thought this was right before I quit too. This was actually, and I'm not joking, one of my reasons for quitting is I felt, and I said to my friend, we've also solved the game. We have the unbeatable deck, and wait for it. This is how dumb we were. The unbeatable deck was the combination of Nettling Imp and Royal Assassin. So as soon as you get the Nettling Imp out, see, the Nettling Imp you tap to force target creature to attack, and the Royal Assassin will kill it before it hits. And it was just like, well, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? You can't do anything. And apparently in all of our playtesting and all, which we did, we built, I remember sitting in his living room and we built like a green deck, a red deck, a white deck, another black deck doing something different. And it's like, you can't stop it. Nettling Imp, Royal Assassin, there is no way to win. And I just want to go back in time and scream, you know, Lightning Bolt exists, right? like what the hell is wrong with you? You know, Path to Exile exists. What is your problem? But I was convinced we had solved the game.
Yeah. I waited till because I started with Ice Age. So mine was the exact same story, except with Icy Manipulator and Royal Assassin. And I just thought I was just so clever. I think I was running like Sorceress Queens and stuff like that.
That was, I think we were on the same wavelength.
Oh man, the O2, you know, at least she had a booty, you know. No, it was just, yeah, early Magic was so much fun. You know, when Mirage and Weatherlight came out, again, my first combo piece was the Rogue Elephant and Harvest Worm. All the things all the time. Do you remember kind of your first, you know, for us old guys, it was called 2.0 back then. There was like a 1.5 and then there was a 1.0. There was no vintage and fancy names. Do you remember your first kind of Type 2 tournament and what you brought?
I never played in any official Type 2 tournament. I was on the playground. I was in the living room. I never made it out to any Type 2 tournament. My first tournament was when I returned to the game. And so my first, I had 2 decks. I had Illusions because this was M12. So I had my Lord of the Unreal and Phantasmal Dragons and my turn 1 Phantasmal Bears. I loved that deck. And then I had in that one Grand Architect, which would let me tap blue creatures, and I would Grand Architect and bring out a Wormcoil Engine. So I would have 2 little things going on. I loved that deck. I hear someone's making Illusions work in Modern. I have to check out that list. I loved that Illusions deck. But no, and then I was Mono Red Burn was the deck that actually won. That was my first F&M win. In first place was with Mono Red Burn, because you could Goblin Grenade and reverberate the Goblin Grenade without needing to sack another Goblin. And that was all in Standard. And so, I mean, that's just made for me. I would just be like, all right, Goblin Arsonist, attack with it, gets through 1 point of damage. Goblin Grenade, the Arsonist. When it dies, it does another damage to you, so that's 2 damage. Goblin Grenade, then I'm going to reverberate the Goblin Grenade, and that does 10 damage total. So that's 12 damage this turn. I mean, it was just beautiful. And I won my first Friday Night Magic with that. And it's also what I won my first game day with as well, with Mono Red. Mono Red, get ahead.
They don't call it red deck wins for no reason.
They wouldn't legally. They couldn't if it wasn't true.
Exactly. No false advertising there.
Right.
But yeah, it's so funny because my return, so to speak, was for Innistrad. I was like you. I played all the way up I started in Ice Age, played all the way up through till Kamigawa killed it for me because EDH wasn't really. I know it was around then, but it just wasn't in my peripheral, I guess. And for those, you know, Kamigawa is now like the great unsung, you know, cult following set that it is now. But at the time, people, it was crap.
Yeah. Well, people love an underdog. And so years later, it's like, you know, as soon as you say we're never going back there, then people are like, well, why not? You know, like we love an underdog. And I like that too. I like rooting for the underdog. Hey man, I want Return to Homelands. I want to see what the Baron's up to. Come on, let's Ugrotha 2, Baron Sengir's Revenge.
Well, they have all the planar portals now. They could really, I mean, people don't even have to be planeswalkers now to get from point A to point B.
Well, that's good. I like that we've done that. There was a real hard. They used to have that more in the old days, where there were non-planeswalkers that could, thanks to planeswalkers, get yanked around and stuff. And there were planar portals were more common. And then they really had a hard line against any of that. It was just like absolutely not. And then they started like doing a little bit more of that. Like there was even a point where they were trying to say that you couldn't take anything in between planes. Like I remember there was like a lot of lines of dialogue, and maybe about 7 years back or something, where I remember them asking, and they're like, well, you couldn't even take like, if you planeswalk, you can't even take like an item with you. Like it's just the planeswalker. And be like, well, what about their clothes, man? What about their clothes? How are they bringing their clothes with them? And then they started doing more and more in the storyline. I remember we had, what's her name? Kiora steal Thassa's Bident. And I thought that was really cool. And I think that like 4 years before that story, which is now, I think like 4 years old already. Oh my God. But I think they would have been like, no, you can't do that and stuff. And so they've reversed that. And now we've actually got interplanar travel is starting to be a part of it. We've gone back to Dominaria where there was a lot of interplanar travel and we're talking about it more. And I like that because I think that if you've got a resource thematically and story-wise, such as the multiverse, to basically put up this giant wall and say never, it makes it so that, well, then you're not using it. Why not use it? It doesn't have to mean everybody's like just taking a bus ticket, but a little bit, like a little spice is nice, where it's like, but then there's Venser and he's really good at teleporting. This was before they ruined Venser's character by making him a planeswalker. Spoiler alert for any of you young kids watching. Venser used to be able to interplanar travel before he was a planeswalker because he was just that good at teleporting. And he was just like, oh, so there's other stuff out there. I got my ambulator and boom, I got it. And then and that was really cool. It was just like, boom, I figured it out. And then they ruined his character by making him a planeswalker. Grumpy old man. That's the way it was, and we liked it. We loved it because we were stupid and we didn't know any better.
This is the professor in rare form.
Have you seen my channel? It's all grumpy old man complaining. My God. I can do two videos. One of them complaining and one of them praising. And the one complaining gets 3 times the views. So
everyone loves a curmudgeon.
Apparently.
So what's your, I think I know the answer to this, but what's your favorite format and what are you playing now?
Well, I've got kind of a, you might be thinking, because there's been a lot of talk about Pauper lately, but I really do like Modern, but it would be a tough call. So I asked myself the question, you have to keep just one deck or decks from one format. Would you want to keep like your battle box of Modern or your battle box of Pauper? And that's a tough call because they play very differently. Modern's fast and has a different type of power level. Like Pauper has a high power level, but it operates differently. And I really like that about Pauper, is that it has that actually old school feel. I feel like Pauper is much more Nettling Imp, Royal Assassin type of power. And that's great. Like the Pauper mono white tokens deck is so much fun, and your battle screeching and all this stuff. But Modern, it's much more, and I kill you. You are dead. My deck goes off. I like them both. I don't know that I can pick between the two. I have a very soft spot in my heart for Pauper because it was an underdog format for a long time, and now it's starting to come into its own. But I do love Modern, and I was a very early adopter of Modern, and Modern is one that I really am into. I wish it was much more affordable, and that's been another pet cause of mine, is the affordability, not just of the game, but specifically as it relates to Modern, where I get really pissed at how expensive getting into Modern is going to be. And when 80% of that expense is the land base, it's even crazy. Go on to MTG Goldfish or whatever, if you like CFB or SCG or whatever your site for deck lists is, and then just cut out those mana bases and see what the price becomes. And it'll shock you, where it's like, are you kidding me? Like, there's some exceptions. I mean, Jund is still going to be expensive, but so many. Look at what Humans, #1 deck, possibly some would argue in Modern right now, and it's over $1,000, I believe. for the full humans deck. Cut out the mana base, it's about $100. The humans are Mantis Riders are 83 cents each. I think the only thing in there not in the mana base that's expensive is Noble Hierarch, which are like $80 each. It's crazy. But aside from that, the rest is in that mana base for 5 color and Ether Vials, I guess. But everything else in there is just 83 cents, $2, $3. You know, it's just so frustrating. I feel like we need to ban fetch lands or reprint them at common already. Like, you either have them or you don't. Listen, are they? We can't do it at common. They're too annoying to shuffle with and everything. Then ban them. Because they're ruining this entire fabulous format at this point. Hot takes by the professor.
We got a hot scoop.
Right. I got a hot scoop for you. We're gonna ban fetch lands. Yeah. That's why I'm not on play design.
We're gonna get rid of all of them. We're gonna get rid of all lands. It's gonna go to Hearthstone.
We're gonna go to Hearthstone. Hex is where it's at.
That's what the kids are playing these days.
Yeah.
No, but even those decks have algorithms, because I remember watching some of your earlier deck techs, and 8-Rack really turned me on, because I love A, pissing people off, but B, I love the mono black. It took me, nostalgia. It took me back in the day to where I won my first Type 2 tournament with Nether Shadows and Fallen Angels and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And it was just like, I could play mono black and I don't have to get fetch lands. I don't have to do, all this crazy stuff. But then you have to play the lilies. And if you don't play the lilies, it's just, they can't compete. And for some reason, people won't let a cheap deck be good. I guess the closest thing in modern would be something like a green Stompy, but you're really not.
Mono red can get there. Like, and I know not like, Naya Burn is superior, or some people are playing around with just Gruul Burn, and yeah, it is superior, but you can do just fine in modern with mono red burn. You can do just fine with mono red burn, and what's more is you can put together for like $100. In fact, I would say each color, Merfolk used to be a lot cheaper. They're more expensive because of the Ether Vials, but without the Ether Vials, Merfolk is still about $100 to $200. Mono white Soul Sisters, I'm really surprised that doesn't see more play. Mono blue Tron, I'm really surprised that doesn't see more play. And these are all decks where I think Modern's biggest problem too is that it has this kind of tunnel vision where people are like, yeah, why would I play Soul Sisters in Modern, or why would I play Mono Blue Tron in Modern? Because obviously Eldrazi Tron is way better. And it's like, yeah, but are you honestly trying to win that GP, or are you going down to your Friday Night Magic Modern event or your Saturday Modern at your store? You could actually end up taking first with Mono Blue Tron there, depending on the meta, and it's a great deck. And I think that then if more people were playing it, more people were entering the 5-0 friendlies with it, and it was showing up on like the reports more people would be trying it out, and you'd get we already have a super rich, diverse modern meta, but you'd get an even more rich one. Mono green elves is pretty damn affordable. And yeah, I mean, black green and white green are both better variants, but that doesn't mean mono green doesn't kick ass, and it does. I think that's every color, right? I mean, mono green elves, mono blue Tron, or Merfolk, mono red burn, Soul Sisters, mono green Stompy, and that saves so much money. And those are like the 5 to 6 decks that I always am recommending to people who want to get started in Modern but don't know where. And it's like, come on, $100 to $200 for any one of those. Never going to rotate. You can build up to some upgrades, and a lot of them, the upgrades would lead to better decks. You can go from Soul Sisters into Norin Sisters, into some kind of Hate Bears, like Boros Hate Bears sort of setup if you get more money. Obviously Tron can go into any of the other variants, elves into the green white, green black. There's a lot of build into options. I just wish the cards were more accessible. I wish they reprinted them more. I think the master sets have failed.
Absolutely. And I think that 8-Rack does have a pretty competitive budget version, which I was drawn to. But then I went to an FNM with a budget version of the deck, and I did about 50-50, and I'm like, oh god, I love this deck so much I have to put the money into it.
Yeah.
But then I got to then I went on the other end of the spectrum. I think it was probably because, name dropping here. I had Ben Bateman on the show.
Ooh.
And I know, right? I like
The
to consider
master of
myself,
modern himself.
that's it. I'm the more overweight, less attractive Ben Bateman. But I digress.
Aren't we all?
Aren't we? I mean, who can't be? But I love some Coco, and I love playing the allies. The allies were so much fun, and you got to play with all the at least the cheaper versions of the fetch lands, the windswept heaths, and the cons fetch lands, so to speak. So I love modern as well. I didn't get so much into Pauper. I probably should. But EDH is probably my other love. And I think you have quite a fondness for EDH as well.
Oh yeah, I actually think EDH is probably the safest, if this makes sense, format in Magic. You're not going to get banned out of it unless you were a Leovold player. You're not going to get banned out of it. You really can put affordable decks together, whether it's the precons, which are just $30, or I guess they're going up to 50 now. Oh boy, that obnoxious.
That is really obnoxious.
You can find them for 30, 35 still. I don't think that they're going to sell for 50. I think that's unbelievably greedy. Unbelievably greedy. It was a great product at 35. Oh no, they're going up to 40, I think, not 50. That's still bullshit. Absolute. I can swear, right?
Yeah.
Yes, you said I could swear. Okay, well,
we're drinking bourbon, folks, and
raising the price of Commander precons to $40 is absolute horseshit, and I consider that completely unacceptable. Some math nerds were running inflation numbers and saying that in no way correlates. That, like, if you were going to go by inflation, it should be like $36.95. All the numbers were matching. It's just basically that it's a hot selling item. People will buy it, and they're like, just add another $5. We'll increase our earnings, and it's horseshit. One of the best things for Commander were those precons. Anybody could pick them up. Anybody could sit down and play. Fantastic. We should have that for every format. We got that for Standard now with the Challenger decks. I don't see why we couldn't have that for Modern. Every one of those $100 decks I listed, they could just literally print a top tier version of that's like maybe would be like 200 and then sell it for $35 like the Challenger decks, and it would not destroy the marketplace because it's those oddity ones, but it would let people get into Modern. It would help control prices. We need that for each format. We need it for Pauper too.
Absolutely. So let's change gears just a little bit here. Let's talk about, coming from your casual beginnings. It's like such a bad word these days, but you were a casual player, like you said.
I still am. Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Not exactly winning the Pro Tour,
but you're at more Pro Tours than most pros.
I've never been to a Pro Tour.
Really?
No, I felt well, it's only for it's not like a GP where the public is welcome.
Oh, sure.
So I felt like there was one Pro Tour where a couple friends who are on the Pro Tour were trying to get me to go to. I was like, I don't know, what would I do? I'd just stand there awkwardly while like everyone. I'm like, there's not like booths and like people getting side events, right? They're like, no. I'm like, well, what am I gonna do? That's no. I'm not supposed to be there. I'm not doing that. I do not have any business there. Like, I've been to GPs, but I don't play in the main event.
Yeah, GPs are much more like conventions and celebrations at this point.
Yeah.
And man, I was at last GP Vegas because I lived there at the time, and I was like, yeah, I'm gonna go say hi, go introduce myself. What's going on? I like what you do, kind of thing. You couldn't move. You were like in a swath, a wave of folks, and I'm just like, I'll catch you later, Brian.
Aw. Well, come up to me at this GP Vegas, all right? We'll go get some bourbon.
Yeah, absolutely. Bourbon on me. But yeah, switching gears, let's, talking about where you came from with the cards. What made this translate into even wanting to make content creation?
I always wanted to make content. Like I said, I grew up wanting to be a writer. I made my own magazine about Nintendo games in second grade, like a full-on magazine. I made videos on my camcorder as a kid all the time. I made like full, like half-hour episodes of shows and movies and stuff like that. I always wanted to create. I always had that inclination. I kind of gave up on it as I, like went into the real world. Welcome to the real world, jackass. Get a job, and got my, like what every artist does. Is I ended up teaching English and my sad little professorship, and I kind of gave up on all that. And it was when I really rediscovered YouTube, and really loved the whole, like, you just turn on your camera and you can put your content out there. And there were so many stories of people who reminded me in some ways of myself, only they had put their content out there and stuff. I was a big fan long before I had a channel, big fan of Loading Ready Run, who were definitely people that reminded me of like me and some guys and that I used to hang out with when I was in the 18 to 21-year-old range. And I was like, oh my God, that really reminds me of me and my old friends from junior college, and the video, we would make little skits and stuff. I thought we should, if only, we were a little too early. 10 years later, we could be uploading them to YouTube, and all these creators, like, the Vlog Brothers and Red Letter Media, and I mean, on and on the list, of people big and small, like a lot of the more mid-listy people, and such. And I really looked at that with just this yearning and envy and desire, because I was like, this is what for so much of my life I had really wanted, but given up on. And I thought to myself, I could never do it. I thought, I cannot do this because I refused to just do what everyone else was doing. I didn't want to be like, all right, I love Loading Ready Run. I'm just going to make a comedy skit, about me and my friends hanging out with like some nerd tropes and stuff. It's like, no, that's what they're doing. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to just review a nerd movie. And like, it's what other people are doing. And I just kind of said, well, too bad. And it wasn't until one day where I became known as the card sleeve guy at my local game store, because I was obsessed with keeping my cards perfect, but also being able to play with them. And so I had bought every card sleeve in the store, and all these card sleeves the store didn't own, and I had used them all, and I'd been like, these let dust in. Look at this. These cards got little spots on the top after just 2 weeks of play. These tear, this. And after a while, I became known as the card sleeve guy. And like literally people would come in looking for sleeves, and the owner would just go, that's the guy you want to talk to, and point to me. I'd be like, well, let me talk to you about Dragon Shields. And I had made posts on like MTG Salvation and Reddit where I was like, here are my thoughts on card sleeves. But of course, they just disappear after a day because it's just, they go to the bottom. And I thought there should be like a definitive source that really explains the differences in these major card sleeves. And that's when I was like, you know what? I should do a YouTube video, because then people will find that when they're searching for the info, and they can also link it. They could say, well, here's a guy showing you the card sleeves instead of just talking about it. And I thought of it as a one-off, and I thought this will be fun. I'm going to do this as a little like project on the weekend. And I did the video, and I almost didn't post it. I was so embarrassed by it. I thought it was trash. I almost was like, nope, I'm not posting this. And a friend at the card store was like, I showed it to him unlisted, and he was like, dude, this is so much better quality than anything else I've seen. If you don't post this, and I meant by post, I meant I was going to show it to the Facebook group of like, the 16 people who play at my local game store. And he's like, if you don't post this, I will. I was like, no, don't do that. I'll do it. And so I did that, and it kind of took off from there.
Well, thank God for that guy, huh?
Yeah. I owe him a bottle of some very nice rum.
Maybe some high. Oh, not.
No, he's a rum drinker. He's a rum.
There's
some
still those out there.
Some Ron Zacapa would be my go-to for dark rum, or some Pompanero for white rum.
Look at you. Yeah. Look at you. It's amazing. Yeah. So talk about the early beginnings of the channel, going from those ranking videos to kind of what it's become today. With that too, what's your favorite style of videos that you produce?
My favorite are anytime I'm doing a kind of skit with other people is my favorite, because I like working with other people, and YouTubing is actually kind of lonely. You see my office, and it's empty of others but myself, and so when I get to have people over and collaborate with them, and I'm always a big proponent. Like everybody I work with, I try and pay for their time and skill, and I also try and very much encourage their input. into the creative process and the script, and some people don't, are fine with what I'm coming up with, but other people, we sit down together and we work in different levels, and I'd say those are like a real pleasure for me, and they're the ones that they have a kind of timeless quality to them too. Whereas you look at me talking about what Battle for Zendikar is going to do for Modern, and that's kind of a dated video, but me just doing a funny skit with a cosplayer or my dad or something is something that I feel like it still holds up today, and so those are probably my favorite. In terms of people's favorite, people really like the booster box game that gets really big views, and I'm doomed. That was supposed to be a one-time thing, and I'm doomed to do that fucking thing for the rest of my goddamn channel career, because everyone, it's the most common question I guess, when's the next one? Are you doing it again? I mean, I'm up to doing 2 to 3 per set because people want to see it at different times, and they're just like, well, okay, fine, you did it when it was released, but what about 4 weeks from now at the Pro Tour? Like, do it then so we could compare. What about before the set rotates? How's it doing then? I was like, oh my God, this is there's so much work too. There's so much work because I actually do have to sell because I can't afford, I cannot afford to buy 6 boxes for every video. The videos make like $80 to $100 in revenue. They pay for the initial box. I pretty much break even on them. And so I have to sell everything. And that's a lot of work. You got to enter all the cards on eBay and monitor them and make sure they go down at the lowest price so they're the next card that sells. And then you got to ship them out, and then this and that. And then some bozo says he never received it and charged back on you and all this stuff. There were a lot of work, and then you get, but people love them. People love those videos. I like doing the comedy skits and stuff like that, and just anything where I collaborate with someone else is just always a blast. When I have a guest, is always a lot of fun because I like working with others.
I love the Joyra, aka Tappy Toe Claws episode.
She's a stitch.
She is so funny.
She is a really talented individual. I'm really glad. Like everybody, that's the thing, is I think there's a lot of talent out there. That's why I like those videos the most, is because I feel really honored to be able to sit down across from her, across from the other cosplayers and pros and just other content creators that I've worked with over the years. Is I really feel, like I'm standing alongside someone who is just dripping with talent, and I can just collect that talent and use it for my own benefit and profit, and which is why I pay them. Which is why I'm like, it's like, yeah, so that's a day's work. Let's talk about, it's a business now for me. And a lot of people are very nice. They're like, no. Like, I'm happy to just come and do this. And I'm like, yeah. I'm making money off the video. I'm making money off of you, essentially. Like, you're getting paid for your time. What am I, Channel Fireball? Come on, I'm going to actually pay you. Oops. No.
I know, right? Whoa,
we know. Everybody knows.
Blame it on the bourbon. Yeah.
Right. I'm not blaming. I'm not, dude. I'm not even one glass in. I'm blind. I'm blind, stinking sober. This is how I
what was it? Oh, I love the series.
Yeah.
And this might just be one of my, and I'm saying a lot of people watch this one, but one of my personal favorite series that you do is the Vorthos one with the story that you do with Michelle. It's so
canceled. Sorry. It's canceled. We stopped.
Oh no. I knew it.
But you can check out Michelle on the Lorgoyfs podcast, but it was not getting very good reception in terms of views and comments. Like, the views weren't that important to me, but the fact that the videos just had no discussion going on in them was like, okay, that was where I was like, look, there's 6 comments on this video as opposed to 600 or whatever,
and they're all me.
But yeah, it was a fun project to do, but that one did get canceled.
Well, shit.
But we'll work together in the future because Michelle and I are very good friends.
She's great.
She's awesome. Very talented.
She's one person I did get to talk to at GP Vegas.
Yes.
She's very nice person. Yeah. And then just so going from all that, just I guess the obvious question is just, what does it feel like to be the #1 Magic the Gathering content creator?
It's not as good a feeling as you might think, because I've got a lot of esteem issues, and so I don't feel like I deserve it. I don't feel like it's real. If you see people who watch the videos know that like a recurring joke I do is I present myself as kind of pompous and arrogant, and that's the joke, because to me there's nothing more funny than the idea that I would really think highly of myself. So when I go, well, of course I could never be wrong, that's the joke, is because in my mind I'm always wrong. So it's been a difficult thing for me to accept in many ways, because I don't feel like it's a hard thing to let in to my brain. It's very humbling. And what I've worked on and the compromise I've come to is this, is I say to myself, you don't deserve, I can't say to myself, you deserve it. I won't. And people are going to comment and say you do. And I appreciate that. But my psychology will not allow me to say I deserve it. But what it will allow me to do is say, so you better earn it. And so I look in the mirror and I say, you have to be better. You have to keep doing it. You have to do it better. You have to do this because you don't deserve it, but maybe one day you will if you work for it and people have put their trust in you. And so that's how I approach my channel these days, is I really view it as like a steward. I think I said that in a Q&A, as I like that idea a lot, is it's like if you get hired as a steward or a butler of a big mansion, you didn't build the mansion, but it's your responsibility to make sure it's in good order and everything. And I feel a little bit like, you know, you can argue I built the channel, which I did, but I feel like it's kind of like also the community came together and they said, we like watching these videos, so that's going to be the #1 channel. And so my job is to keep the ship running and to be the right steward of it. In some ways, that is why I was like, okay, you know, at the multiverse, I like doing it, but, you know, people aren't, it's getting the lowest possible views and no comments. I think, you know, we're going to move on and we'll try a different project. It was a fun thing to do for a season, and we'll try a different project. But that's how I view it. I view it as something to earn my right to. It's very humbling. People come up and the thing that makes me so happy that I will accept is someone says, you saved me some money. And I go, oh God, that makes me feel so good. Like, cause I love that. Someone's like, I was going to buy that shitty product. And then I got this other product for the same price and it's amazing. I love it. I'm like, isn't it good? And they're like, yeah, it's great. And I love it. And that makes me happy. But then people will come up and they will say things that are so overwhelming. And I just, you know, want to break down and cry a little bit, because they say about how you've helped them get through tough times and they've enjoyed watching. And it's been a way we're getting back into the game. They met their social circles. People are like, I have friends now because I play Magic, but I only play Magic because I found your videos randomly on YouTube. I was playing other games and it suggested them to me. And you were so entertaining. I picked up Magic and now I have friends, and you changed my life because of that. And it's like, oh my God, I don't deserve that. Like, dude, do that. Give me a hug. You know, like it's over. Well, I'm just this loser. I'm just this absolute loser, you know, nobody, failure my whole life. And so to think of that, it's very, it's kind of pour another drink.
That was a good segue, Brian.
Yeah, that's what it is. And so, you know, and I've got my own psychology issues, obviously. I try and be very introspective and understand that a lot of what the voice in my head says lies. And I get that, but it's still there. But yeah, I feel I'm excited that I am about to overtake the mothership, because they deserve to be overtaken given the quality of their content that they put out. They deserve it. Like I've got I've got an idea, and I don't know if I don't like being mean. I like being silly mean, maybe, but like I've got this one idea and I'm vetting it with everybody I know if it's too mean or not for when I do overtake them. What I'm going to do will be a lot less self-congratulatory and a little bit like, ha, suck it. Suck it, Watsy.
Well, speaking of, I know this is a person that you're familiar with because I know you were on their show, but I'm very good friends with Zuby, Magic.
Oh, yeah. I was on his show recently.
I love it. He and I talk daily, and he and I have been working on a secret project, which I will discuss with you off the air, that it might be right up your alley with that. So, yeah, maybe, you know, future spoiler alert, but what would be your advice, you know, even whether you think you deserve it or not, and I'm not going to be your knight in shining armor. I'm just going to say cold hard facts. The numbers are there. Everyone loves you. I think it's because you're genuine, you're entertaining, and you give a shit. Especially for people saving money or whatever. Just you have it, man.
Well,
and that's yeah.
I do give a shit. I'll say that one I'll accept. I do really give a shit. Like I launched off on I really give a shit. I can't tell you, like, you can please criticize me, please. But the one thing that I feel is an unfair criticism is that I don't actually care. I really, really care a lot.
Oh,
But
absolutely.
Yes. Oh boy.
You wouldn't do guest spots on my channel if you didn't care.
No, it's an honor to be. It's a real honor. I'm glad you invited me. I said yes immediately. There was no delay. I was honored.
That was awesome. What is your advice for someone that's just starting out making content creation on YouTube, on Discord, whatever the kids are doing these days, on Musical.ly, whatever they're doing? It doesn't even have to just be Magic content. Just what would be someone in your shoes, in your position? What would be your kind of day one? Here's my sagely professor advice.
Make content that you love. Make content that entertains and amuses or stimulates you in some way. Make content for yourself, but make it the best content that you would enjoy. Do not focus on what other people are doing at all. Do not say to yourself, I would want to do a podcast about Limited, but there's a limited resources is number one, and they've been doing it forever. So there's no point. Do a podcast on Limited. Don't say I want to do a YouTube channel that reviews card sleeves, but no, I would love it. First of all, I would love it if there were more channels that did that. But second of all, don't look at like someone else is doing it, so I can't. Do it in a way so that the final product is something that when you watch it, you are happy and you are stimulated and you are satisfied. And if you are engaged creatively, that will be the draw more than the topic itself. The number of people I get, and I'm sure you get, and lots of people get, that say, I don't even play Magic, but I do enjoy your show. I do enjoy your programs. It's because of, at a certain point, it becomes more about the personality. I know we're going to talk about Red Letter Media in a minute. I don't watch any of those movies, man. I watch Red Letter Media on a loop, and the Plinkett reviews on a loop, and I've never seen Star Wars once. And so like I'm drawn to other aspects of that. They could be talking about anything and I'd still be watching it. And so don't worry about like, oh, someone else is doing a podcast on Limited and set reviews. Do it if you want to. But on the same token, don't say, I've heard people say, I want to do this, but no one else is doing it, so obviously I shouldn't. Stop focusing on others. Focus on yourself. Make content for yourself. And if you love it, that will be a draw for others. That's the first piece of advice. The second piece of advice is have good sound. Yes. Have good sound. If you have to choose between good video and good sound, you choose good sound any day of the week. Because I can sit through a YouTube video with shit video quality as long as the sound is there. But if the sound is shit and the video is HD, I will turn it off in 10 seconds. If you're doing anything that has sound, which would be everything, make sure you get yourself good sound. Listen to and watch the content that you make. And if you can't sit through it, why would someone else? So you should, like, I watch every video that I put live. I've watched about 6 or 7 times, repeatedly. And that is part of the editing process. Yes. But I watch it and I sit down and I watch it. And I always say to myself, I imagine in my head, someone is just clicking this and watching it fresh. And I want to experience it from that perspective. And you should too. And if you can't even, I hear people go, oh God, I can't even sit through my video. I'm like, your video is 4 minutes. If you can't sit through your video, how you expect me to? You know, like if you have to enjoy it, you have to love it. And if you love it, you're going to want to do more of it. And it's going to be more of a pleasure to make. So that's my advice. Don't focus on others. Focus on yourself and your own enjoyment and creative satisfaction and stimulation, because you're not doing it for the money. No. And if you think you're doing it for the money, you are dead wrong. You are dead wrong. The money will not come. If it comes, it's I cannot believe that that I am able to support myself. But I am a very rare exception. And even so, and I know people don't want to hear it, it's not what people think it is, because once it becomes a business, the business eats all the money and stuff like that. And what I have is like, I mean, I went from working 2 to 3 days a week, going in for 2-hour classes where I sat on a desk with a cup of coffee and talked literature, to 7 days a week from morning till night. And I'm pretty much in my personal bank account putting in the same amount of money that I did then, you know, like after after all the expenses are done and taxes and all this stuff. And I am so lucky and so fortunate and so blessed. And it's the rarest of exceptions. And I'm not even big. Like the other thing I would say too, not to jump topics, but going back to you talking about like me being, you know, #1 in Magic YouTube, is it's like, we got to remember, all you have to do is go over to Minecraft, and the smallest Minecraft channels have 3 million subs. So, you know, I'm not big. I'm small potatoes on YouTube. YouTube doesn't pay for squat. And you cannot go into this thinking, oh, wow, you know, PewDiePie, he makes so much money. Oh wow, you know,
Good Mythical
Phil
Morning.
DeFranco.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I want to be the next Phil DeFranco, just in terms of money. You want to do a news show, do a news show. But if you think I want to be rich like him, that's not how you're going to get there. That's not how he got there, and that's not how you're going to get there. You got to focus on making the quality content, and then the other stuff comes after a lot of years of hard work.
Absolutely. And much to my wife and kids' dismay, I am completely in the same camp with you. I watch my videos constantly, and that's not just because, you know, because I've gone to most of a live format like this. So editing, you know, I just don't have time. I have four kids, full-time job, all that stuff. And it's just, you know, the editing process is its own beast. So this is why I kind of just throw up these live shows, and it's great. I rewatch everything because, you know, you always want to improve. You want to see yourself. But I do this, and I have amazing guests. So it's people that I watch anyways on my show. So of course I'm going to listen to you guys. But yeah, it's so funny because my wife will walk in and she'll just be like, "Oh my God, you're watching yourself again." But I'm like, I'm trying to get better. Like,
yeah, I do this. I do the same. It's like in bed the night before a video goes live. It's like right before bed, I'm just pulling out my phone and watching it one more time.
Yeah, it is a weird thing to from an outsider perspective, though, right? It's just like, I guess if I walked in and watched my wife just, you know, watching herself on or looking at her own Facebook pictures constantly, I guess, no, okay, no, that happens.
Yeah, that sounds like Facebook.
Yeah, no, okay, so we're fine.
Yeah.
Your biggest influences, it could be Magic or not. Could be non-YouTube or not, just your biggest life influence.
Loading Ready Run was a very big part of that, because I felt that not only there was a connection in terms of like, I looked at them and I felt kindred spirits. And so that was a real motivator for me, because it was like, oh man, these guys, I feel like I know them from watching them. And I know that's a common thing you get from stuff, but you know, again, like they were a huge influence on me and a real motivator to get going. And also in terms of the tone and the quality that they put out there, they're definitely, they are definitely my #1 YouTube heroes. I was and am big fans of, like I said, the Vlog Brothers, John and Hank Green. When I was still teaching, had the pleasure of being able to teach a few of John Green's works in certain classes, which was a hoot. And again, they're another story of they just started doing what they wanted to do, and it took on a life of its own. Red Letter Media, I definitely have an enormous obsession with and respect for the intelligence more than the comedy, because I think that gets lost with them. I think that because the way they present their message is through extreme vulgarity, you know, that you might mistakenly think that they're dumb or something, but that would not be an actual fan, because they're the smartest criticism, the sharpest criticism. And what they've done, and I read an interview with Mike Stoklasa where he said that the whole Plinkett character came out that he was like, I have like an hour and a half I want to say about Star Trek Generations. And he's like, it's an hour and a half. And he said, there's no way anyone is going to listen to an hour and a half. And he said, I have to wrap it in something. I have to make it entertaining. And that's what carries you through the hour and a half film criticism. And that's where he came up with the comedy presentation through that voice. And I feel that Half in the Bag follows that as well. And that's been a big influence on me. I think about that a lot. Like, you know, I mean, I will have, you know, card sleeve reviews where I will break for like a quick one-liner or joke or something, you know, like I'm not afraid to tell that joke. And I actually think that 1 second where I break and tell a joke can make a 16-minute card sleeve review all the more like something that you'll sit through the whole thing. Before YouTube, my biggest influence was Mystery Science Theater 3000. I was the biggest Mystery Science Theater fan in the world, and they too followed that formula because you got a 2-hour movie, but they would break for the host segments. And you would watch it and you'd be waiting for the next host segment. And it's just literally 60 seconds. And it was their equivalent of a fart joke. I mean, it was not like they were not breaking for deep level, you know, like theater. They were breaking to be silly. They always said, and I was obsessed with them, and they always said in interviews, the only thing we thought of was making each other laugh in the writer's room. We never thought of anything other than I want to make these guys and girls that I'm writing with laugh. And if I can make them laugh, then that's my goal. And that's exactly the attitude to have. But they also, you know, they were kind of the first YouTubers in a way. Only in their day, YouTube was basic access cable and like a, you know, like a film studio out of Hopkins, Minnesota. But they were doing what YouTubers do now, which is just sawing up their little sets and making their robot like Muppets out of, you know, car seats and bowling ball pins. And in a lot of ways, that's what you're seeing with YouTube when somebody starts to get a little bit of a couple bucks and it's like, oh yeah, look at me, I painted my walls purple and I got, you know, and I feel like this is my, you know, satellite of love here in many ways. And it's like, you know, that was just toys that they screwed to the wall and spray painted silver and it looked like this cool spaceship. And it's like, this is just a you know, an office I rented, but like I made it look like, you know, my set and stuff. I got some leather chairs and this and so they were a big influence as well in the early days of just my, you know, pre-YouTube stuff. And like, I really was a major Misty.
Yeah. I love Jay. Jay can't even sit through 10 seconds of Mike talking about Star Trek.
Yes, I could. I always want Mike to talk about more Star Trek. It's just like, come on, Mike, more Star Trek. This reminds me of another Star Trek episode because I'm that. That's me. I'm Mike in that way. Yeah.
Jay's blank stare.
Right.
But we're talking, and I wanted to segue into Red Letter Media because they're just on a different plane, you know, no pun intended, as everyone else.
They don't give a shit about anything. They do not, like, I hear Mike does not even log into Twitter. Nope. Doesn't care. They come in, they do what they want to do, they go home. They're not making it. And that's, again, going back to any creators. Like, these guys are not like cleverly tapping into the zeitgeist. Fuck that. Yeah. All they're doing is they're doing what they want to do, and they're doing it how they want to do it. And I try and incorporate that myself, and any content creators or prospective content creators should do so as well. Like, block all that other stuff out.
One of my favorite things, and I swear audience will move on from RLM. We just, you know, Professor and I need to kind of geek out a little bit, but
Space Cop. It's the Space Cop. I bought Space Cop. Yeah, absolutely.
But them talking about that, I remember Mike and Jay ripping. Oh God, it was that Jesse Eisenberg, Kristen Stewart movie directed by Max Landis, American Ultra. They ripped the shit out of that movie so bad that the director Max Landis flew to Wisconsin to have a best of the worst episode like that.
Oh yeah. I think Magic could use a bit more of that attitude. That was the right call on Max Landis's part. I'll say that, you know. I wish Wizards of the Coast had that attitude a lot more.
So, kind of rounding it out before I do want to pop in the chat real quick and get some questions. Maybe play a little
Sure.
face the D20 if we have time. But I just the last thing I wanted to ask before that. So, just kind of like when you think about the future of Magic the Gathering, what do you think about the health? What do you think about the longevity? And what do you think about the same kind of thing with the content?
I was very scared a few months ago in terms of the game itself. I felt we had had a very long bad period. I was not I did not rate the health of Ixalan block, Amonkhet block, Battle for Zendikar. Battle for Zendikar, I think, is when I'd say it started, and I would say we had some very bad sets that all followed a very disturbing pattern in terms of they felt like cookie cutters in many ways of themselves, and it made me feel like, oh my god, they're going to keep doing this, you know. And you can say, oh, Shadows wasn't so bad, Amonkhet wasn't so bad, and that's true, but all in all, looking at Battle for Zendikar all the way through to Rivals, I feel is a real bad period in Magic's history, and it definitely made me feel a lack of confidence in sets going forward. Dominaria gives me a lot of hope. I feel like Dominaria, like they tweeted out, Aaron Forsyth tweeted out, name the 3 things you love most about Dominaria. And I didn't reply. Maybe I should have. I should have had the guts. I usually do. I'm definitely a headache for them. But I wanted to reply. How about you tell us the 3 things you did different in Dominaria that you think worked, that you'll continue doing in the future? Because, you know, like this has got record-breaking sales, and everyone loves it, and the draft is great, and standard is looking very diverse, despite energy still being a thing. So it looks like you guys did a great job. Besides having Richard Garfield help you out, you know, like, what are 3 things you did really well? Because I'd like you to do it again, please. You know, so I feel good, though, going forward, because we got Dominaria, and it shows that we can have a good set. I do think Arena has potential. I do like Arena. I think they're making some major mistakes, but they're at the decision level, and decisions can be changed better than bad software, which can't. You know, like, would you rather have, we'd love to do that, but the software won't allow it, or we don't think we should do that, but we can if we think so, but we don't think we should. Yeah, all right, we'll change your mind. We'll make enough videos, and we'll change your mind. You know, like, here we go. You know, we'll go to Reddit. We'll change your mind. So I feel like when Arena's worst qualities are decision based, that's great. It makes me feel really good.
The bones are good, right? The bones on MTGO were terrible.
I've spoken to friends of mine who know software, and it's not the greatest, but it's really good. It's like a good, like, I'm hearing a lot of B and a lot of B pluses, which is good number to hear for Wizards of the Coast for software, you know? And so, like, that's good. That's great. So I'm feeling optimistic, which is rare for me, about the game and its future. I hope they don't screw it up. I hope they recognize what they're doing. In many ways, Wizards of the Coast is like a dinosaur where you step on its tail and it takes 2 years for the signal to hit the brain, because they do everything, like the next 3 sets or whatever, right, are done. So if they're like, oh, wow, Dominaria is big, we didn't think it was going to be big. And you know they didn't think it was going to be big because they only did 1 set. They didn't have any confidence in Dominaria. They're like, for years, they're like, we're never going back to Dominaria. It's only what you old fogies want. The new kids don't even know what it is. Wrong. Right. And they're like, fine, what if we do 1 set going back to Dominaria for the 25th? They had no confidence in the idea of returning to Dominaria, and the set's record-breaking. So wrong again. And so when I say I hope they understand what they did wrong, you know, than what they did right. But then it's like, well, what about the next 5 sets that they've already designed? They're like, all right, we're going back to Theros, and the theme is gonna be, you know, like -1/-1 counters that are legendary, where the theme is legendary counters. So now counters can be legendary or some dumb shit like that. You know, I mean, they didn't even have the guts to reprint Lightning Bolt. I mean, just marvel on that for a minute. Just, you know, we don't want to. The problem with Wizards of the Coast is they are afraid of their own game. They think that real Magic is too powerful and too complex, so that every set we get a watered down version. We can't give you Lightning Bolt. It's too powerful.
But we could give you Emrakul and Thopter,
Oh,
whatever.
sure. But Lightning Bolt, too powerful, will give you a watered down version of it. And I think it's a huge mistake. People want to play Magic. The apotheosis of Magic the Gathering is like a power cube. It's the best cards in the set. The best cards. Stop giving us less than the best. Why would you approach designing a product and say to yourself, well, we can't make it too good? But they do say that. And I'm sometimes prone to hyperbole, but they really do say, oh, wait, that's too good.
Right.
Are you out of your fucking minds? That's too good? Oh, yeah, I might actually have fun playing with it. Right. It cost 5 more than for Lightning Bolt. Had a 3-cost Lightning Bolt the last set. That's great. So I don't know. I hope they're looking, and Dominaria isn't even really a pushed set, as the pros would say, but it hits a lot of the right notes. I feel confident, despite my angry rant just then. I feel really confident and optimistic. They are bright minds at Wizards. I think they've got, again, the brains are good. The brain on everyone in R&D is good. The direction in terms of what gets written on the whiteboard is in, remember, people, tap, 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 always be powering down, you know, and it's just like, that's where the problem is. That's where the problem is. And they're geniuses in there. They just they're excellent at hitting the bullseye. Excellent at hitting the bullseye. They're just always given the wrong bullseye. They hit the wrong damn bullseye. Let's not make the set too powerful. Boom, we did it. Success. Wrong bullseye. That's
and then they accidentally put these crazy powerful cards in an otherwise, you know, watered down format. And of course, those stand out like a sore thumb, because it's just like the rest of the set is so powered down. But and not to be a negative Nancy, but it's just like everything you just said about Dominaria. Oh, it's for the old guys, and you know, maybe that did bring people like you and I, if we weren't so, you know, entrenched in the game anyways, maybe it did bring a lot of us old timers back to the tables. But and then, like you said, they kind of can't get out of their way. What are we going to follow that up with? We're going to follow that. We're going to go back to Ravnica. We're going to put all the heroes back, all the Gatewatch back there. We might have Emrakul come too. Maybe Nicol Bolas. You know, it's just like, oh no, what are you doing? You had it and now you broke it, and this is why we can't have nice things.
Yep, and the overuse of the Gatewatch still is just showing how disconnected they really are. You know. They think we're wrong. I mean, I've had talks with some pretty big up people when I've had some trips to Seattle, and you know, we've gotten some drinks, and they honestly just think we're wrong, and they think it with a smile, like, oh, you guys, you just, you know, they really mean well. They have been told things like, no, the Gatewatch is is the most popular thing in Magic, you know, and it's like, no, it's not. You know, you're polling moms buying the packs for their kids at Walmart, and you're getting faulty data, and you're relying on it too much, you know. Anyway,
hey, there's Avengers exists, so kids want to buy Avengers toys. They don't need to have Avengers on their Magic cards also.
How about this? Avengers was so damn popular. How about we don't base our business off of just ripping off other people's ideas and like, well, we should have the Avengers of Planeswalkers, and instead of just doing that, why don't you do your own thing? Why don't you come up with your own Avengers, but it's original?
But they have it. They have the thing. They have it. Just use the thing that you have.
Use the thing that you have. And I think that what it comes down to is, in some ways, the people who make Magic don't have confidence in their own product. Yeah. They're afraid the game is too complex. Always hearing that. It's just going to scare away them new players. It's like, man, I was a dumb teenager and I could play Magic, and I was not smart. I was thick as a tree stump. And so why don't you have a little confidence in your player base? Why don't you have a little confidence in new players? Maybe the challenge and complexity of, what's that video game? I don't play it. There's a video game that one of its selling points is it is so complex. It's like takes a long time just to learn it. And it's like, listen, if you're going to play this game, you need to know going into it, it's like part of it is just learning how to play it is part of the experience. And some people don't like that, but actually it turns out that once you sit down and you go, all right, my goal is to learn how to play this game, that it actually becomes one of the greatest experiences you can have in gaming, because it's not all hand holding. Magic is chess and poker had a baby. It's complicated. That's its selling point. Stop trying to dumb it down. Stop trying to dumb down Magic. Sell it off and say it's not for the lighthearted. It's not for the empty-headed, you know?
Right.
Anyway.
No, absolutely. And Ted from Cardsphere said Dark Souls was that game. Absolutely, it was.
Dark Souls, yes, that's the name of it. Right. Yeah. And Dark Souls, I hear, is an amazing experience, and it's an incredibly successful game as well. It's not like it's losing money and dying, I don't believe. And they based it off of, we're complicated. Yeah. Magic needs to lean a little further into that. You know, it's not easy, but it's worth it.
But New World Order and market research, and you know, we're DC when we should be Marvel.
There you go.
All right. I don't know how we are on time. Do you have time for?
Let's do a few questions. Let's do it.
All right. So, fans of the show or people that are just joining us for the first time, we play a little game called Face the D20. I roll a spin down. I said it correctly. And each one, 1 through 20 correlates to a non-magic related question. So I have random questions.
I'm doomed.
Yes, you are.
I'm doomed.
We'll get a couple of these. I got some.
I have no life. I have no life. It's 9:15 p.m. Look where I am.
Oh,
I have no life. I know nothing. All right, hit me.
Here we go. Number 1. We have number 18. Oh, this one's a new one. What's your number 1 thing on your bucket list?
Oh, well, I just accomplished my number 1 thing on my bucket list about a month ago, which was to be in an episode of Friday Nights. I was just like, I can die now. I was in an episode of Friday Nights. These guys are why I have a YouTube channel. I used to pass around their DVD at my game store. I bought 2 copies of season 1 of Friday Nights before I had a YouTube channel. I'd pass 1 copy around at my game store. I was like, you have to take this home and watch this. So what's on my bucket list now?
That was a fabulous episode, by the way.
Oh, well, Kathleen did a great job writing it. I don't know that my bucket list now to work less. Does that count?
Sure. That's what America's about. You work less.
I'd like to work 6 days a week instead of 7. I'd like to be home before 9 p.m.
Yeah. All right. Number 2 or second roll of the dice. We have lucky number 13. What food do you absolutely hate?
Hate. I love food. I love all foods. Not a fan of tripe.
Ooh, yeah.
It's more of an ingredient than a food. I love all foods, but tripe is an ingredient I've never been a big fan of.
Tripe. Yeah, nor should you be. Yeah.
Some people like it.
Some people do, and
get it in your pho. Go for it. I don't want it. Not me.
I rolled an 8. Favorite place you've ever traveled to?
Love so many of the places I've been. I lived in Beijing.
What?
I lived in Beijing 2 years. I lived in Wuhan, Nanjing. Chengdu was pretty fun. I traveled to Chengdu. Probably say Chengdu was a lot of fun.
I know you're not a movie buff, but did you see
Portland was fun.
Portland is fun. Did you see the movie The Beach with Leonardo DiCaprio?
I've never even heard of it.
Oh, jeez. And you're the Red Letter Media guy.
The Beach? They did it?
Yeah. No. I'm just saying. I've
seen every episode.
Oh, I know. Me too.
I don't remember The Beach.
It's a early Leonardo DiCaprio film. Danny Boyle directed, and Leo he goes to this beach in Thailand, and he kind of lives off the land. It's this crazy transformative experience, and just when he said something like that, it sounds very exotic. Sounds very much like that.
I like Portland, Oregon.
Yeah,
yeah.
I drove through it. I didn't stop on the way from here or from Vegas to here.
Yeah.
I might be
relocating there, so I'm pretty excited.
Portland,
yeah.
Hey, you're closer.
Yeah, train ride up to Seattle.
All the bourbon. Number 6. Pick 3 people to pull off a heist with.
What am I heisting?
Oh, what do you want?
I don't want to heist anything.
You don't
I'm
want
not
to
a
heist
thief.
anything?
I'm not a thief.
How about you're heisting to break in to the Red Letter Media warehouse in Milwaukee to see live episode of Best of the Worst?
Wouldn't I just like email them or something? And it's
Maybe
like
you can. There ain't Jay's not
no,
answering my shit.
no. Three people to pull off a heist with. Heist. Who's clever and devious? Clever and devious. Tappy Toe Claus
Oh
Sid.
yeah,
She,
good pick.
yeah, I trust her. And then I'd say she is gonna know who to pick for the other two people because she's a born devious mind. So I would trust in her deviosity to pick the people to do the heist with.
That sounds pretty perfect.
Yeah.
I'm gonna roll one more for
All
this
right.
game, and then chat just drum up a couple quick questions. Get them in mind, and
Let's get
we'll
some
go
good
to
questions going here.
that. Yeah,
How many people are in chat?
a lot.
Oh yeah,
About 26.
nice,
Yeah, for me that's good.
awesome.
Number 16. If you could have a sleepover with any living celebrity, who would it be?
What kind of a sleepover? We're talking like are we what sleepover?
You can give me a PG, a PG-13, and a rated R if you want. I mean, it's really a spotlight on you, sir.
Hmm.
God, this brown sugar bourbon's good.
Yeah. The High West is quite nice. Gosh, I don't really know a lot of celebrities, really.
But you don't have to know them.
I don't really follow celebrity. My celebrity is like YouTube celebrity. I would love in terms of PG, like just to hang out with. I would definitely say the Green brothers, Jon and Hank, would probably be fun. Probably Hank more than Jon in terms of person to get a couple drinks with and have a into the night drinking sleepover. Sure.
I would say I would want to hang out with like Mike Stoklasa and Jay and Rich Evans, but I feel like I would just
of the three of them, it would be Rich because I think like he's the nicest in real life.
Maybe Jack Packard. I don't even think I'm cool enough to hang out with Rich.
Yeah, I hear Rich is genuinely a sweet guy from what I've read.
That's good because I just feel like it would be like major imposterism. I would be like, oh, I'm not cool. I'm not hipster enough to be hanging out with these like mid 40 overweight schmucks. Just.
Why do all these circus clowns want their VCRs repaired?
Yeah. Oh man. All right. Now, let's go to the chat.
All right,
people. Something stupid asks Pepsi or Coke, Professor.
Coke.
With
a small slice of lemon in it.
Nice. Fancy. Gem of Magic. Hey, Gem.
Oh, Gem.
Yeah, and thank you for subscribing, by the way. She says, question for Professor, which MTG creature would be your ideal pet? That's a fun one.
Pet. Well, it would have to be non-sentient then, because I wouldn't want like a sentient creature for a pet. Keeping pets is ethically problematic to begin with. So the creature that would make for a really good pet in Magic would be something that is much more attuned to that. I would say probably a what do I like? I would say maybe a well, that's kind of dangerous. How about a Pegasus, and then I could fly on it.
Excellent. That would go nicely with my Liger.
Yeah.
Johnny Slivers asks, have you ever gotten salty pushback from a manufacturer of a product that you gave a bad review for?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Nice.
That's a difficult thing. A lot of it's very difficult, and a lot of manufacturers have had problems with bad reviews that I've given. And it's unfortunate, but yes, I have had that. And I've had both just kind of some manufacturers who are like, all right, we're not interested in having an open line of communication with you. You want to review our product, go down to the store and buy it and don't talk to us. And that's fine. I do that plenty, because even the manufacturers who like me don't ever remember to send me stuff most of the time. So like, I mean, I regularly am touring places to shop for new products and stuff, but I have had others who took it very personally. And like, I've had some long emails that were quite unprofessional. Nothing too extreme by any of the big manufacturers. There was one kind of small time kind of indie manufacturer who I literally had to block because they would not stop. Every day I was getting this like DMs and email, and it was just like, it was like over what wasn't even that bad of a grade, but they were just livid, and they were very unprofessional, and they were very, very rude. And it was just like, there was a point where it's like, well, okay, we're done here though, but we're done. The review is done. And it's like 2 weeks later and they're still messaging me. And it was just like, all right, dude, like, I'm sorry, but I'm going to go ahead and block you now. Leave me alone. I've got other videos. I've got other videos to make. I'm sorry. You know, I pointed out my evaluation. You don't have to agree with it. I showed why I thought what I did, you know, but yeah. I've definitely had that. It sucks because I wish it was more like the Max Landis thing, where I wish it was a little bit more like, okay, you know, like we're gonna, you know, take that and we're gonna maybe want even more communication. I get very little communication from even the companies that I consistently give good grades to. It's really interesting. So I wish that there was more of that, and I wish there were more people reviewing products as well. I wish I wasn't like kind of the only one in Mad. Like, I wish there was more, because I think that'd be better, because it's more perspectives, and you know, I think that'd be a good thing, but there's not really. It's expensive. I mean, I spend a lot of money on product samples.
Okay, just a couple more. King of Jank, question for professor. How do you feel about the JSON banning? Do you think it was strictly to sell M25?
I did at the time, and I don't anymore. I think that was one I was wrong on, and I'll freely admit that. At the time, I was really angry about it, because, like I said, Modern is one of my favorite, if not my favorite, formats, and I thought Modern had been done a great disservice by Wizards in terms of them cutting Modern Pro Tour, allowing Eldrazi Winter to continue, and banning of Splinter Twin, all relatively at the same time. I felt it hurt the format. I felt it damaged the meta. I felt it eroded player confidence, and it had just recovered. And it was at a point where even pros who don't like Modern were saying this format is the most golden format. You can play what you love, and if you get really good at your deck, that's what matters more than anything. And it was golden, and then they fucked with it, and they go, we're unbanning Bloodbraid, and we're unbanning Jace. Oh, and by the way, Jace is in Masters 25. And I was really angry. I felt like this was corporate, you know, like profit pursuit at its worst. I was very angry. I made some very angry tweets about it, for me anyway. I mean, I try and be respectful enough, but I was like, this is bad. I said a few terse words about it in a video, and that was one of the times where I did hear a few whispers from people I have connections with at Wizards. And again, Wizards I almost never hear from, even though I have a few friends there, but like I never hear from Wizards. And even then, like a couple people were like, yeah, like this is the extent of it. If you ever wondered what Wizards says to me, it was like literally just getting a message like, hey, by the way, you don't know what you're talking about. Click. And I'm like, what? And they're like, Jace, click. And I'm like, all right. So you actually, my understanding is you guys don't test for Modern. So, you know, whatever. But here we are in the future, and it doesn't look like Jace broke the format. So I'll admit, it looks like maybe they knew what they were doing. I'm happy with that. I'm glad to be wrong on that. I'm glad.
You want the game creator to know what they're doing.
And I want the format to stay bold and vibrant. I'm very happy for that. More power to them. I do not think Jace, back to the original question from King of Jank, I do not think Jace broke the format. I think he did not have any significant effect. If anything, I think Bloodbraid is the potentially more dangerous one. Now it's made Jund and Living End much more powerful, but even still, it doesn't seem to have taken over the format. It's a really healthy format. It just isn't affordable.
Absolutely. And last quick question. Crucy does MTG says, what MTG card would you use as a drink coaster?
Tolarian scholar.
Yes. Walk off on run right there.
That's the one.
Oh, Professor, is there anything that any upcoming projects you want to talk about or spoil for the group?
Just keep tuning in. I do 2 to 3 videos a week, usually 3. If I'm sick, it's 2. Keep tuning into YouTube. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, the little bell next to it, and maybe occasionally do the manual thing where you click videos and look back to see if you missed one, because YouTube isn't notifying you these days. I got a lot of content coming out, and I hope you enjoy it, because that's what I'm making it for, is your enjoyment. So I hope that I'm succeeding.
And where could the good kids find you?
YouTube. Just type in Tolarian Community College. I'm also on Twitter and Facebook. You just need to type in Tolarian Community College and you'll find me.
Awesome. Brian, thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me, man. It's been a pleasure.
Brian Lewis, the professor from the Tolarian Community College. This was an amazing thing. Talk about a bucket list. Just being able to have a tasty beverage with you for an hour and a half was just beyond my wildest dreams. So thank you so much. This was an amazing show, and thank you all in the chat for participating. I also have to thank my buddy Christian from Northwest Beverage for hooking up this tasty beverage, the BSB bourbon, brown sugar bourbon.
I'm gonna have to try that. That sounds great.
Oh, it's so good. Like I said, on me, sir.
Yeah, Vegas.
Yeah, no, Seattle. Yeah.
All right.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And you could find me on this very channel. They said, we said. You could also find me on Twitter and Instagram, or Twitter at OrzovDunn, Facebook and Instagram at Jon Dunning. And I want to thank the professor again. And until next time, I will see you all in the multiverse.